Welcome everybody to this Honeybee Watch Symposium today. My name is Steve Rogenstein. I'm Honeybee Watch's project director and your host today. I'm joined by Arrigo, our science director. Today we have three very special guests who will talk about their inspirational projects and experiences with bees and beekeeping in Africa. And then that will be followed by a panel discussion and then a Q&A. To start, I will briefly introduce Honeybee Watch. We are an international coalition tasked with better understanding how free-living honeybees survive via natural selection with little to no human intervention. And by free living, we mean bees that have chosen where they want to live, whether that's in a tree cavity, in a cliffside, in a cave, in the burrow of an animal, in the ground, buildings, and even abandoned beehives. The aim of Honeybee Watch is to find nature-based solutions to lower mortality rates, to increase beekeeping sustainability, and ultimately to protect these threatened populations. In our 5 years, we have already gotten more than 2,500 nest sites on 5 continents from research partners and participating citizen scientists. But if you visit our mapping platform, sadly, you'll see that Africa has been very low. We have low representation, but we hope to change that. So if you're based in Africa or you visited there or you know of people and they know of free living nest sites, we really encourage you to participate and plot those on the map and join the Honeybee Watch citizen science aspects. And Arrigo, if you could just drop into the chat where people can find the mapping platform. So some of the initiatives that we have partaken of in the last 5 years, a couple of years ago, we formed a task force to collaborate with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, also known as IUCN. That is the international governing body that determines the red list status of species. So they range from vulnerable to threatened to endangered to extinct or near extinction. And we're working with them to reassess the red list status of Apis mellifera in Europe. After about 2 years, we're ready to conclude that and submit a report. And hopefully that will get published before the end of this year, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll have some interesting news. And if you attended our last symposium in March, you already know that we're part of a consortium that applied for and was awarded a €1 million Biodiversa Plus grant from the European Commission to extensively study free-living colonies, which I may call FLCs at some point, and that's just because it's easier to say. And we'll extensively be studying them in France, Ireland, Poland, Portugal, and Sweden for 3 years. And if you want to learn more about that, on our resources webpage, we posted that video from March. And with our primary mission of forming an international coalition, we've organized this Symposia Series, which is now in its 3rd year, to connect the community of free-living honeybee enthusiasts. Now I'll briefly contextualize the Honeybee Watch Symposia Series, especially for our new visitors. First of all, it's super exciting for us that more than 330 people have signed up for today's event. And already we are at 72 people. So thank you for your support. Thank you for attending. So 3 years ago, we launched this series as a means to bring the community together, to introduce scientists and experts from around the world to one another, to facilitate the exchange of their expertise and data and best practices, to introduce you, the audience, to their work, and as I said before, to introduce you to one another. Through this Symposia series, we're also committed to exploring and discussing challenging topics. In the first year, we explored monitoring protocols, which led to an open source document that's free to download and use on our resources page. So if you know of a free living nest site, what we ask is that you register it in the mapping platform and then monitor it at least 4 times a year. And you can use that protocol from our resources page. In the first year of the series, we also discussed data rights and sharing, as well as how to define wild in the context of free living colonies. which continues to challenge us. Actually, I just had a conversation yesterday, and somebody was asking about the wild bees, and I said, "Are you talking about the wild native solitary bees? Are you talking about wild honeybees?" So there's always confusion about this word, which is why we choose free living colonies. In our second year, we explored bee lining, tree cavities, whether wild honeybees are wild bees too, which I'm sure you know the answer to that, and also best practices for communicating and recruiting for citizen science projects like Honeybee Watch. And this year we started in March with an introduction to Free Bee, that European Commission funded study. Today we move to Africa, and in September, we will hear from 3 PhD students' current research and data findings in South Africa, in Ireland and the UK, as well as Slovakia. And Matusz, I saw that you're here, so he will be speaking in September. Thank you for attending. And then to round out the year in December, we'll explore bee-related policy issues. More information can be found on our events webpage. So that brings us to today's program, titled Africa, Nature-Based Traditions and Techniques. As many of you know, Honeybee Watch is making a concerted effort to expand into Africa. We claim to be global, but we kind of fall short on that. And because Africa comprises the native geographic range of Apis mellifera, it's a natural place for us to have a presence. And we want to have a meaningful presence. And to that end, last month we gathered 80 bee scientists, beekeepers, foresters, farmers, and policymakers from 25 countries on the continent for a working webinar to explore the opportunities and challenges and needs and general interest in studying and protecting free-living colonies there. And today's program continues in that vein and is a testament to our commitment to that. So we have a real treat for you today. We'll hear from 3 very passionate people who represent different lands, different projects, different perspectives, and in advance, we're grateful for their participation. Our next guest, Tibeebu, is from Ethiopia. We met through the online Telegram group for the Arboreal Apiculture Salon, which is dedicated to tree beekeeping and related topics. He had posted that he was interested in learning more about natural beekeeping in Europe. And I texted back that I was interested in learning more about the beekeeping techniques and traditions in Africa. And we started a dialogue. And here we are today, about to hear his backstory, his thoughts on traditional/indigenous beekeeping, and observations between free-living bees and managed colonies. And in case he doesn't mention it, he's interested in bridging beekeeping with biodynamic farming, indigenous knowledge, and youth education, and is scheming a project that might realize that dream of bringing them all together. He's trained in Waldorf's education approach and is collaborating with the UNESCO Biosphere in Ethiopia. Tibeebu, are you ready?
Hello, everybody. My name is Tibeebu. I'm from Ethiopia. I always say I'm a traditional beekeeper, and I know for some people, the word traditional is not comfortable, I guess, which I learned also in the last webinar. Also here, as you can see, I put in quotation the word beekeeper, because at least for us here in Ethiopia, the English word beekeeper is a bit confusing, because we do not actually keep the bees. Our way of, especially traditional beekeeping, which I'm very much interested in, we do not interfere almost at all with the bees' natural life. So this is how we do, just to give you some insight. I'm sure many of you, especially from Africa, and as Dr. Janet has already mentioned, the first thing we do here is we fumigate the hives with aromatic and medicinal plants before hanging them on tall trees. So after it's fumigated like this and it's covered for rain and also to give some worms for the bees who will be leaving soon after it's hung. So this is how we hang the hives. To give you some context, Ethiopia, we do have a different method of making hives, but mostly they are log hive. But this particular one that the picture I'm showing you here are in the southwest, in the forest region, in the UNESCO registered biosphere reserve forest of Ethiopia. So beekeeping in Ethiopia. So I'm going to use the word beekeeping, but you know what I mean, right? So we do not keep the bees. That's not the picture that we create in our mind when we talk about a person working with the bees in our native language, but I'm going to use the word beekeeping so that we can understand each other. So beekeeping in Ethiopia is a long-standing activity, and it's an integral part of the farming, the agriculture. So almost all farmers who are small-scale farmers do have some beehives, of course, bee colonies in it, and harvest a bit from that. I had some training in Europe, and my professor, Dr. Paulo Fontana, in his book and then in many other books, they mentioned that the first non-beekeepers might be the Egyptians. But I read that the ancient Egyptians themselves, in their hieroglyphs, they refer Ethiopia as the source of honey and beeswax. So here, as you can see, let me just read it. It's important for me. Not to brag, but this powerful evidence confirms that we Ethiopians might be the first beekeepers to walk on pollinators, just based on this confirmation that is found in the hieroglyphs of the Egyptians. So Ethiopia has the largest population, bee colonies in Africa, with more than 10 million colonies, out of which about 5 to 7.5 millions are hived. The rest are free-living bees, wild free-living bees. I'm not sure how to actually distinguish the wild free-living bees and the bees that are hived in tall trees. Because like I said, the only thing that we do here, traditional beekeepers, is hang a hive and then do nothing. The bees enter, they live there, and they make honey. And just only once a year, we go there and take some honey. We call it a rent that the bees thankfully give us for the service we provide. So that's the only interventions that we do have in the bees' natural life. So these bees, when they swarm, they go back to the wild, mostly to their natural preference in any nest that they find or like in the forest. So even some of the so-called modern or traditional hives that we use is only that the size and shape is changed, but most of us, we keep it the same way. We smoke with aromatic plants and medicinal plants. We hang the hives on the trees, and then we wait until the harvesting season arrives. So here, as you can see, at first I tried different types of beehives, the log hives, the traditional log hive. There you can see on the right side of the screen, the Kenyan top bar and the Langstroth hive too. Here, again, some pictures for you to see. So these are my fellow traditional beekeepers in the forest, in one part of the biosphere forest. And this is how we hang the hive. I tried different types of hives, like I said, and I also tried to see which hive and which height the bees prefer most and how they live within that hive. So here you can see different types of hives. So why I embrace the traditional beekeeping method? Uh, as I said earlier, I embrace traditional beekeeping actually after I had my training in Europe, in Italy, a little bit in Germany and Slovenia. During my training, I was taken to this famous biodynamic beekeeping farm where they perform as well apitherapy. And that's the first time that I heard about biodynamic beekeeping. And I was really interested. And then from that on, I started meeting different biodynamic beekeepers in Europe. And I tried to study more about biodynamic beekeeping. And one thing I found out was that this biodynamic thing that they say is very similar to the traditional beekeeping method, which back home I thought it was backward. And I moved to Europe to study this modern beekeeping method and bring back and teach the traditional backward beekeepers that I work with. So here, if you read in many of the Ethiopian beekeeping articles, studies, or books, you'd find, of course, most of them are about honey production or the honey value chain, how to increase honey, how to alleviate poverty through beekeeping. And it's all about the honey and the production, and none of them, or that maybe I didn't see or read, talk about the bees themselves, the most important component in this activity. So biodynamic beekeeping cares more about the bees as well. And for example, swarm suppressing is not allowed in biodynamic beekeeping. And I didn't even know there is such a thing that swarm suppressing. Of course, many, almost all my fellow traditional beekeepers as well doesn't know. So this is the event or the situation that led me to embrace my root, to respect the traditional beekeeping method of the indigenous community, and to start to study, to humble myself and study from the indigenous community. So maybe they don't read books, but they read nature. They see the bees, they follow them, they study them, and then they come up with this beautiful way of working with the bees, which I now call traditional beekeeping method. So Honeybee Watch, I'm very much grateful for organizing this. And if you go to their webpage and in many other organizations as well, maybe, you will see the importance of the wild free living bees. So let me just go fast forward. So this is the honey that we get from the traditional beehive. We just hang high on the tree and then we bring it down. And when it is made this way traditionally in this community, they say this is the bees made this for women and only women consume from this. So as you can see, it's really nice. You can produce the best type of honey, fully sealed. And now we are facing this problem of youngsters abandoning this beautiful practice of traditional beekeeping. And here, he was my mentor, rest in peace now. He is teaching his great grandson about beekeeping. So with IBA, my association, I hope we'll be able to promote and preserve this indigenous wisdom. And I encourage you all to join IBA. So with the so-called modern beekeeping method, the problem that we face is like this, because in the so-called modern beehives or modern beekeeping method, one of the things that people love about it is you can manage inside what's going on the hive, and then you can do what's best for the bees. So in doing so, we rather create problem. And then here you can see it's a disease. I think it's a wax moth infesting here. The other thing that I want to mention is we do not really open the hive during the day, even if just one day in 1 year. If we do, look how the bees really are very defensive. And I know many people say that African bees are aggressive, but I hate this word because they are just being defensive, and it's us who are aggressive towards them. And here, as you can see, with the problem, when bees sting and they die, and then in just opening one hive, look how many bees sting here, and then how many of them could die. So the best approach for us, for Africa, is traditional beekeeping. It has got its own drawbacks as well, of course, but we can improve on that. So this is the aggressive defensive thing that I tried to mention. So the other challenge that we are facing is deforestation and unfair market price in the international market as well. And like I said, beekeeping is an integral part of the agriculture system. For example, those who are producing coffee, the coffee tree, especially the Abyssinic, the Arabica, just
Wrap it up
finishing
quickly.
up, that's just only a call for action now for you too, Steve. First, thank you so much for inviting me and to do this, my first ever presentation. And I hope we would collaborate, and then your organization will study the free living bees in Ethiopia in the forest and their challenges as well. The last call I have is, again, please join the Indigenous Biodynamic Association of Africa. Thanks so very much.
Thank you, Tibeebu. Tibeebu, thank you very much for contextualizing your experience and traditional beekeeping in Ethiopia and giving us a glimpse of what the issues are with modern beekeeping there.